people are scared of a lot of things. I'm scared of one of these hickory nuts smacking me on the head one day. We're right up under a hickory tree.
I know when they fall off and they hit the tin roof of the chicken
shed. It sounds like
shed.
a gun going off. So today we're going to be talking about soybeans and what's going on with it. I didn't realize it was a major ingredient in chicken food. Well, I knew it was a major ingredient, but I didn't know how much was in there. China consumes a lot of our soy. As we get into the global food crisis, complicated with crop failures, rancid grains. We got some videos we're going to show you, and I'm going to let Stacey read some facts that we got in front of us here.
Yeah, well, China has come out, and because they import so much soybeans from us, now they're kind of starting to do it from, I guess, Argentina, because Argentina's devalued their currency to try to help the farmers, so they're producing more. But it goes into a lot of stuff, and the process is really interesting. I actually looked it up because I was like, why is soybean so important? And they do billions per day, these soybean crushing factories, and they're starting to pop up, I guess, more and more. And they take the bean out, they roll it in flakes, from what I can understand. If I'm wrong out there, you guys tell me, but this is what I could understand.
Crush it up.
Well, no, they don't at first. They roll it in this flakes. They put it in a solvent. It pulls the oil out.
Okay.
Then they dry the flakes, and the flakes are what becomes the soybean meal. That's what we feed our chickens. They feed all this poultry. They feed the turkeys. They feed the pigs. Mm-hmm. And so China has a really big pig hog production, and so they're saying, hey, we're running out of soybean meal. You need to find another way to feed them. So they're trying to come up with alternative methods, which is going to be hard to do based on the fact that, so just right here in the U.S., I was talking to, there's actually a farmer. Remember we were talking about the guy that called in? He actually sent some videos. I hope that you can share it.
Absolutely. I'm going to share the videos. And just so you know, I will never share your information.
Right.
The stuff you send us, you'll never be named unless you want to be.
Right.
And I would never do that to anybody. So if you have something you want to share, feel free. NinjaNationReport@gmail.com is a good place. And this is some of the information. I'll roll the footage right now.
You can't tell much about the quality of the beans right here, but they smell hideous. You can see the black ones. None of them are full size. It should be as they are. When I get to the elevator, I'll show you a copy of a sample sheet to see what they're grading. I wouldn't feed it to anything that I own. Yeah, pretty bad. This whole farm here has been like that. The corn was fairly decent, but not the bean crop. It's ruined. It's even got flies coming to it. I don't know if y'all can see the flies, but they're swarming these beans. Smell like dead animal, I guess.
You can hear him talking about they're so rancid. He said it stinks like a dead animal. And this is more South Louisiana. And unfortunately, he didn't want us to name the farmers, but he said some of these farmers,
I don't blame him.
because, no, I don't either, but they had decided they were going to do soybeans this year because they're in high demand, and the corn required more fertilizer and all that kind of stuff. So they didn't do corn, didn't do cotton, instead did soybeans. We either had too much rain or not enough. Their crops are destroyed. And here's the interesting portion. They're having to sell for salvage prices. And from what I'm understanding, these salvage companies are going just above the salvage price, causing the insurance companies to say, oh, nope, it's just a little too high. We can't honor those insurance policies anymore, because I think he said most of them get like a 70% insurance policy.
Sure.
And so they're not going to get the money, nor are they going to get the
partially
insurance.
totaling a vehicle. It's like this close to being totaled, but it's not. So you would rather it go ahead and be totaled and get paid insurance, but they're kind of there. It seems like, and I'm not the authority on this. Neither one of us are. If you have some information you want to share, I'm going to have another call with Terrell. He has a wealth of information on soy and all kind of grains. But there's a lot going on with the industry, and it doesn't seem to even get, there's no light at the end of the tunnel at this moment when it comes to grain and grain shortages.
seems like we're in for a tough road for the next year or so. And they said they expect it to be more, I guess, in 2023. This guy even does a video of where there's 18-wheeler after 18-wheeler, and you can hear him in the 18-wheeler. He was driving one of them. They were coming from, he said, normally it's just a few trucks, I guess, that go to this one particular elevator, they call them. There were lines of them waiting.
Because it was a salvage?
Because it was salvage, and that's the last resort they had.
Consolidated grain in Vidalia. People are buying or selling their grain to them for salvage, hauling it all the way from South Louisiana up here because they're one of the only people buying it right now. There's 18 trucks ahead of me in line right now. This is causing the local farmers a drastic setback. But this is what we got to deal with. They're buying bad beans. I've seen them at 75% damage, and they're still buying them. So, I don't know what we got to look forward to, but it can't be a good thing.
So, based on that, well, something else interesting, talking about farmland and all that, I ran some stats, and more than 150 million acres of farmland in the U.S. receive some kind of related financial. And they just had a meeting the other day, and they were talking about how these farmlands, they need more of these financial assistance. However, it sounds like the government was also trying to come in and tell them what they could do if they got this financial assistance. So if anybody out there is familiar with this, I'd like to know, are they requiring you to do certain things, or sounded like they were based on the meeting?
Free market's the answer to all of these problems. Government intervention's never the ticket. It will always come back. They'll be able to. That's why we didn't have our pond funded by the government.
Correct.
You know, they would pay 70% of it, but then they could tell us what to do with it, and I'm not into that.
Yep.
Now, I understand there's a place for that, you know, when it comes to a country's food stability. The government kind of has something there, but as a whole, free market is the way to go, and we do not have that now. We have crony capitalism on top of all the other things that are coming to a head. Next year, probably, you know, next year we'll be just starting to see the severity of these food shortages at the end of this year. And the year after that, I'm thinking it's going to look a lot like the Thunderdome.
I hope not, but doesn't seem to be changing much in those. So what would you think of some solutions? I'd like to hear from you guys too. What would be some solutions if we know this is coming? We have chickens. Obviously, we're going to need some kind of soybean meal.
Having chickens isn't very good if you can't afford or find the food. So there is ways to feed them. Maybe we'll come up with a video on how to feed chickens without, you know, laying pellets.
Okay.
But either way, it's going to be really expensive. It's like anytime a country is really messed up, food prices go straight up. I mean, they rival precious metals. So anything you can do towards that direction, whether it be chickens, you know, having relationships with your farmers, guys, that's so important. That's the person you'll be able to barter with, and have a bunch of different farmers, just like you have different banks.
Yes.
Just like you know, you have to spread that out. And canned goods, they're cheap right now. Yeah, I say cheap.
They're
$1.
Well, they've gone up. They've almost doubled some canned goods because I've been watching them in the store.
It's $1 for a can of green beans, and $1. And I'm making a video. I've already made the cooking video, but it got messed up. I'm going to do another video on what to eat as a prepper. What I eat every day to stay in shape, the calories you need, the protein. I can cook it in 20 minutes, and it'll feed a multitude of people. But I have those items on hand, and it has to do with your farmer, the chickens running around out here right now, and those are all moving in that direction to be as self-sustaining as possible. Another solution would probably be community. That's probably the biggest one, and that's when I talk about farmers and stuff like that. Don't forget about your neighbors. You need to kind of see where they're at mentally anyway. So talk to them, and I've got some around here. Go ahead.
No, so even if you knew someone that had some land and they were not using that land and you think you maybe could farm it, I would consider asking them. I mean, we're in a position to where if We've drive by pieces of property before that have not been utilized, and it's just sitting there. And so it might be something to talk to them and see if you could. We even know a guy that did a community garden. Remember the guy down the road? The guy he didn't have land, and so they got together and they did the garden themselves. And there's got to be solutions. We just got to look for them and think outside the box.
And there are some pitfalls doing that. But, you know, when food's in short supply, there always is. But there's a few solutions there. And guys, just remember, you'll beat the stock market by buying food. And there's some people on here that have a share of Google that could put a whole cow in a freezer and calf, packaged in the freezer, and feed your family. Just think about it a little bit differently. Buy tangible goods, buy food, buy hard assets, brace, get prepared. We're headed to the Thunderdome. Have an awesome, awesome day. We'll see you in the next one. Later.